So how many characters is too many characters, do you think? This is a question that I don't think was ever asked at any point in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's development, considering we're now sitting at 74 playable characters and a mind-blowingly large set to choose from. Then again, you can see that Masahiro Sakurai and the dev team knew that you don't need to add too many more when everyone is already here. Hence why there's only 11 new fighters at the moment. That's only one less than the total number of characters in the original Smash Bros. We are spoiled. I think everyone likes to focus on the newcomers in every new Smash Bros. Game because while it is great to get reacquainted with returning favourites and their tweaked movesets, it's way more interesting to see these genuinely new characters with their game-changing additions. Or so you'd hope. It feels like yesterday that I made the equivalent video for Smash 4, and I'm approaching this one in a very similar way. Ultimate came out just a few days ago, and I'm writing this days in advance of that, so you might be wondering where my opinion of these newcomers is coming from. Luckily, I've had a few opportunities since June to get to grips with Ultimate, and with this video in mind all that time, I paid special attention to the new characters. I mean, this would have been easier if people stopped leaking Nintendo games that Nintendo would trust content creators enough to send me a review copy, but nope. But hey, World of Light has cutscenes. Great, I'm thrilled. I'm gonna be honest with you people, I can't get as excited for Echo Fighters as I do with genuinely new fighters. I doubt I'm in the minority with feeling that way, since it's one thing to have a character you like make it into Smash Bros, but it's a different ballgame entirely having a unique character with their own moveset. Especially during some of the crazy reveals in Smash Bros history, you tend to lose interest in a new character who operates a lot like a pre-existing character. Look, I'm just not all that interested in Daisy, alright? I actually forgot she was in this game until recently, but can you really blame me considering all the exciting news that came after this? She was revealed during the Everyone Is Here trailer, and I'm sorry, but I found it a little hard to care about Orange Peach when my boy Snake came home! How the fuck did you do that? Isn't Orange Peach just an orange? That's why she called Daisy then. What? Daisy's basically a slightly altered version of Peach, who is already a character that I've never really cared for. The move where Daisy uses her butt to attack people is slightly faster than Peach's equivalent, but other than that, they feel almost identical. I'm sure fans of Daisy are really excited to see her, and I'm happy for you, I really am, but mostly she's just kind of there. I don't have any complaints, I just don't really give a shit. Nintendo has definitely gotten better at toying with our emotions. There was a period of a couple of years a while ago where they didn't really know how best to connect with their fan base and the people who play their games, but they've seemed to have turned a corner recently. And now they're assholes. It was very stressful seeing the end of that one Nintendo Direct where maybe Animal Crossing is getting announced for the Switch, or maybe Isabelle is making it into Smash Bros, or maybe Animal Crossing for Switch is an actual thing after all. I don't fucking know, I'm scared. Isabelle had already made it into Mario Kart for some reason, so it makes a lot of sense to see her in a franchise that is more renowned for its crossovers. Never mind whether or not she seems like a character who would be capable of horrible brutality, we've got a potted plant coming at some point. Logic got off a few stops back. The issue I have with Isabelle is very similar to my problem with Daisy, although not quite as severe. Villager has always been a character that I admired from afar without really dedicating too much time to playing, and the times I did play as Villager, he felt very technical and interesting, but not that strong. Isabelle steers clear of being an Echo Fighter due to possessing some completely different moves and just generally feeling different to play, but the same kind of awkward base kit is still there. I'm probably going to annoy a very wholesome group of people who are thrilled to see Isabelle in this game, but she just isn't quite for me. There's going to be 80 characters in this game when they're done. Somehow, I'll survive. Holy shit, how long did it take to get Dark Samus in this game? I mean, she was an assist trophy in Smash 4, which felt like a huge waste of potential, and cropped up as an ultimate costume for regular Samus, but Dark Samus has been around since the second Metroid Prime game came out 14 years ago. If Ridley was too big and you needed more villains and Metroid reps, why did this take so long? Whichever way you put it, Dark Samus is a very strange character to get to grips with. In one form or another, and to varying degrees of viability, Samus has been around for all of these games and has a very specific set of skills that function in broadly the same way across all 5 games. For the most part, Dark Samus fills the role of Echo Fighter very nicely by offering up some stylish and very evil visual changes to all of Samus's attacks without changing too much else. The issue I have is that she feels a little floatier. Whether she actually is or not is one for the analysts, but she feels floatier, not just because she's floating. Maybe I'm just bad, but attacks weren't landing as I thought they would, and I wasn't getting a ton done as Dark Samus. Or maybe Dark Samus is a bad character, and I'm smitten by all the creepy vibes in awesome victory poses. Only time will tell. They left us wondering right up until the very end, but in reality, I think we all collectively accepted that Ken was gonna make it into Smash Bros. Ultimate. As soon as they drew attention to Echo Fighters and gave it an official name, how could Nintendo resist putting the original Echo Fighter into the roster? You've already got on Capcom's good side enough to squeeze Mega Man and Ryu into Smash 4, what value would there be in stopping there? The history of Ken being an Echo Fighter illustrates that actually there's more going on here than being a simple clone of Ryu. To me, the simpleton, Ken operates in a very similar way to Ryu, but with some fire effects thrown into the mix for good measure, which isn't a bad assessment to make, but not necessarily accurate. Ken seems faster and more nimble than Ryu at the cost of a bit of raw power, but to someone like me, Ken doesn't feel all that different. And that's okay because I love fighting as Ryu, and another very similar option is hardly a bad thing. It's just a tad simple compared to some of the other newcomers in this game. The door has been left wide open for Akuma though, and he can be the wolf to Ryu's fox. The same, but actually way different. If they do another ballot, I'm all over it. Somewhere in between all of these new Echo Fighters and almost clones of other representatives, we did get some brand new concepts for characters that go some way towards shaking up how Smash Bros. Can be played in the future. I always admire any additions that are made that end up affecting every existing character in the roster, since this kind of knock-on effect shows a dedication to implementing this new idea. This was always likely when adding the Inklings to Smash Bros. It was just a case of when, not if. So we didn't get an ARMS rep or someone from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, at least not yet. But I'm glad Nintendo realized that some of their new characters really do deserve to get in amongst the action. The Inklings take their unique trait of covering everything in colored ink by using a whole host of weapons and make the most of it when put into Smash Bros. Every part of their toolkit works together with a great synergy, and while none of it is particularly surprising, if just because of the variety present in Splatoon, every part of the Inklings moveset helps out the rest. I wondered how far they'd go with the ink, and they've allowed the Inklings to have such a unique and interesting mechanic that separates them from all other fighters. How are we on the 5th game in this series and still finding new shit to do? Oh, Sakurai, I fear you may never get to retire. What we've seen from Smash Bros. Recently is that there are fewer rules than ever before for what characters are eligible to take part. When Cloud was announced back in the day, it was a huge seismic shift that practically opened the floodgates to allow anyone in. So now, no suggestion is too wacky, no franchise too obscure, no character is too big. I guess I always hoped this day would come eventually, but even with Ridley now confirmed for Smash Bros. Ultimate and the star of his own murderous CGI trailer, this still doesn't feel real. I see Ridley on the character select screen and I feel like I'm playing one of those fan games and should expect to see Shrek just a few slots over. He's a character who should have been in Smash way earlier, considering that Samus has been very lonely up until Ultimate, but we're there now. Everyone should take a big sigh of relief and reconvene later. We may have waited a long time to get here, but Ridley feels like he's worth the wait. A little tricky to get used to in my eyes, since he doesn't fall into the usual heavyweight archetype of being this lumberous monster, because instead you've actually got quite a bit of mobility to help you move around the battlefield. More importantly, Ridley has a ton of very flashy moves, like his side special where he brutally drags an opponent across the field of play, or his down special where you stab them with your tail, crumpling any foe you hit with the very tip. It's a lot to take in and get acquainted with, but the little touches here and there make it all worthwhile. Ridley shooting NES-style fireballs out of his mouth gives me so much life, you don't even know. I'm gonna need the song of my people for this next one. Yo, drop those funky fresh rhymes. I feel much better now. Oh man, seeing King K. Rool again makes me feel old, and I'm only 23. I guess if there were any rules about characters needing to be recent and relevant to the video games of today, the inclusion of King K. Rool, a character we haven't seen in any form for a decade, and even then it was fucking baseball, has obliterated it with a giant fucking laser. And it's weird that there was any debate over K. Rool's inclusion, since he's the closest thing that Donkey Kong has to a consistent antagonist, and Smash 4 did get K. Rool Mii costumes, so it makes a ton of sense. Also, Sakurai did say that King K. Rool was thrown a bone because of all the votes he received in the Smash ballots. Fine work, everyone. He's a super weird character, but I think I love him. K. Rool is almost as big as Ridley, as weird as that sounds, and he has a similarly bizarre approach to being a heavyweight character. Unlike a lot of others, King K. Rool has incredible recovery with his propeller, able to take him deceptively large distances, and when you factor in his general bulk and a counter, something that no other really heavy character has, King K. Rool's got this potent staying power where he can outlast a bunch of other characters just by being harder to kill. He's also the thickest boy around and deserves your respect. He is royalty after all. Did you know that only one franchise has had a newcomer in every successive Smash Bros. Game, and that it isn't Mario? Yeah, I had to meticulously check this because it sounded a bit weird to me, but there weren't any new Mario characters in Brawl. However, Pokemon has gone on a bit of a tear over the years and has added at least one new character with every new Smash Bros. Game. Some of them have been good, some of them have been crap, and some of them are pretty spectacular. What's this? A new Pokemon representative who is actually naturally suited to a fighting game? I thought it was a little strange that Decidueye got into Pokken ahead of Incineroar, the pro-wrestling Pokemon, but clearly he was being saved for a much higher calling. The way in which they've translated wrestling moves and the general flashy persona of a wrestler so seamlessly into Smash is really impressive. I don't have a ton of experience of watching wrestling, but Incineroar seems able to string a lot of those individual moves together into combos that can shut down an opponent very quickly. Darkest Lariat is a ton of fun to use, especially as a finisher, and I love how they've worked Revenge into Incineroar's kit, functioning as a kind of counter but instead taking reduced damage and powering up your next move. Maybe over time he'll lose effectiveness, but for now, Incineroar is really fun to use and even more fun to watch. He's just really happy being there. Before really thinking about it, I could have gone either way on Incineroar being in Smash Bros. Because, hey, it's another Pokemon, that's not super exciting. But when you look at it from a fighting style perspective, Incineroar deserves to be there and really does represent wrestling very well. Does this mean that we need a character who represents something like Krav Maga or Sumo? You bet your sweet Bippy it does. Having twice made my own videos on the subject, I'm always fascinated to see what characters people would like to see in a Smash Bros. Game. I have my favourites, and I'm still secretly holding out for RabbidLuigi in playable fighter or spirit form so I can retire from life in peace. But for the longest time, I would scoff at anyone who wanted Simon Belmont in one of these games. Especially nowadays, with Konami melting into the ground and taking all of their beloved franchises with them, getting any love for Castlevania into Smash Bros. Is a ship that has long since sailed. You want to talk shocking reveals? You can take your Ridleys and King K. Rools elsewhere. This shit is goddamn magical. Yes, this is a miracle, a Christmas miracle, even if Simon and Richter were announced in August. These guys were the first newcomers that I wanted to try as soon as I got my hands on Ultimate, and they did everything except for disappoint me. I'm including Simon and Richter at the same spot because I haven't had anywhere near enough time to work out the little nuances between the two, but they both have this awesome whip that annihilates opponents from a distance, so I'm fairly content with life right now. I also really like seeing the sub-weapons getting some love, with the axe and cross especially being super helpful for reaching opponents that are on awkward planes and ranges that the whip struggles with. I haven't really settled on a new main for Ultimate, but I could have a lot of fun with these guys. Although seeing them work so well just makes me want to have a fun new Castlevania game. Simon and Richter should go have a chat with Captain Falcon about Forgotten Franchises. That guy's been around for a while. I've talked about Echo Fighters a lot in this video, which isn't really something that I thought I'd be doing when I started. I guess that makes sense when half of the newcomers are related to another character in the roster in some way, which perhaps is an indication to how much work has been done in other areas like World of Light, online play, and simply getting all of the other characters to work in Ultimate. Don't confuse me for someone who is disappointed at the abundance of Echo Fighters though, because used in the right way, an Echo Fighter can be a wonderful thing. I bet you all forgot about Chrom, didn't you? I sure as shit did. And then I started using him. Fire Emblem is the third most represented franchise in Smash Bros at this point, and I think a lot of people could have done without another wavy-haired sword user. But I put it to you, people of YouTube, that Chrom acts as the culmination of everything that Fire Emblem has done and achieved in Smash Bros up to this point. If you wanted to remove all but one of these characters and retain a rough outline of all Fire Emblem characters, you could do a lot worse than a representative who takes moves from all of them. Except Robin and Corrin, but they use magic and chainsaws, which is frankly cheating. Chrom is technically an Echo Fighter of Roy, so there's a lot of similarities there, but Roy was technically a clone of Marth back in Melee and has retained a lot of similar moves. Lucina is straight up a Marth clone these days of a few small differences, and Ike has had his up special repurposed into something a little better. What's more, Chrom feels like a really well-balanced version of a Fire Emblem character, which does mean that he doesn't excel in any one area, but he also lacks a gaping weakness, which means he's very easy to pick up and really fun to use in general. You know, I was one of the few that wasn't disappointed when Chrom was confined to Robin's final smash in the last game, but now he's here and kicking so much ass, I guess retrospectively, I was disappointed. Points for persistence, I suppose. This has been RabbidLuigi, and I'll accept that having a lot of very similar characters from the same franchise is a bitter pill to swallow for some, and I personally would have liked another mage character or an armored unit or something, but what you have with Chrom is a culmination of all previous characters to the point where he kind of feels like an upgrade on a few of them, and that is an improvement, it's a sign of progress. Now, does that mean that you could have dropped some of the pre-existing Fire Emblem characters? Potentially. But then everyone wouldn't be here.